Good afternoon, everyone. We'll start in just a few moments. Looks like we have a lot of folks still joining us and logging in rapidly.
And as you're joining, please share where you're currently at in the world. We have our first run in. There we go.
Oh, wow. Look at this. As you're joining in, type in the chat panel where you're located, where you currently are located. And I think we'll go ahead and get started. Does that sound good? All right. Well, welcome, everybody. It's great to see everybody here virtually today. We have a wonderful global audience that's attending today. As you can see in the chat panel, there'll be you'll see that there's people from all over the world here. I'm Sandra Richtermeyer, and I'm Dean of the Manning School of Business. And I'm so excited that we have such a wonderful speaker today. This is really exciting for all of us. I know we have students, we have undergrad students, grad students, entrepreneurs, professionals, faculty from all over the world joining us today. So whether it's good morning, afternoon, or evening for you, we're just thrilled that you're here. The Jack Wilson Center offers so many different options for students and professionals and entrepreneurs to further their knowledge and their entrepreneurial mindset. And today is another exciting event. For all of the students that are here today, if you are not familiar with all the offerings that we have with the Jack M. Wilson Center, please check it out on our Manning School of Business website. There's a lot of great content that you can learn from previous sessions, and the wonderful content and the things that you're going to learn today. This will all be out there as well after the event. But I know today's event is going to be interactive and engaging, and it's a lot of fun, especially for all you students who are thinking about your 3-day weekend coming up. It's great to be here on a Friday. So I'd like to start off, and I'm going to introduce our co-directors of the Jack M. Wilson Center for Entrepreneurship. We have Professor Ashwin Mehta, and if you want to give a wave, he's on camera there. He's here today, and he's after this, he's on his way virtually to San Diego for an entrepreneurship conference as well, which is very exciting. And then we have Dr. E. Young, and she's the other co-director of the Jack M. Wilson Center, and she's also the chair of the Marketing, Entrepreneurship, and Innovation Department. And she will be introducing our speaker. And I want to thank Professor Young and Professor Mehta for all they do for the Wilson Center and bringing these amazing, wonderful global speakers to our center, to our college virtually, and really to entrepreneurs across the world. So welcome, Yi, and thank you very much. And I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Dean Reimaginez. Thank you so much for your very kind words about the Jack Wilson Center, and thank you for your tremendous support along the way. And again, welcome everyone to today's the event, and this is the first event in the Jack Wilson Center Distinguished Speaker Series in 2021. And today, as Dean Reimaginez mentioned, we are very, very fortunate to have Therése Gedda, award-winning entrepreneur, as our distinguished speaker. And she is the founder and CEO of Reimaginez. She brings more than 19 years of the entrepreneurial experience from running multiple companies, including tech startups, to her executive coaching and a culture consulting practice. And she has developed a proprietary frameworks proven to deliver transformative change in both faster growing companies and large corporations as well. Her company, Reimaginez, based in Sweden. Actually, Therése right now is in Europe, and this company is reimagining the workplace by supporting startups and scale-ups in becoming more people and purpose-centric. She is also a sought-after executive coach for higher achieving founders, investors, and the C-suite. Therése has been an invited keynote speaker in over 10 countries on topics such as a company culture, the future of work, and the high achiever mindset. As a result of her dedications to entrepreneurship and a company culture, Therése has been recognized by a Nordic 100 for her cultural and future work efforts, naming her one of the most influential and impactful people in the Nordics. The list of Nordic 100 is equivalent to the Forbes 30 under 30 and the Forbes 40 under 40 in the United States. So she is also being recognized by the SCAPA Foundation via the Future Innovator Award. And this award is one of the most prestigious of its kind, and the recipients are considered to be Swedish champions of innovation. So now let's welcome Therése Gedda to talk about the unconventional path, thriving with entrepreneur mindset in a chaotic world. And we all know it certainly has been a very chaotic world last 1+ year. And now let's welcome Therése.
Well, thank you so much. And I'm thrilled to be here. We are going to go on a journey, and I'm going to share an untold story. So I've been on stage performing, speaking. Well, I wasn't speaking when I was 3. I was performing or trying to dance, but I've been on stage for about 20 years or so. But there's one story I've never told. I never told my story. So you will be the first ever to hear pieces of the unconventional path, the untold story. And I would like to invite you to take out the notebook and capture your own brilliance as we're going through this journey together. And I will encourage you to reflect and to see how you can eventually tell your untold story to the world. So to start out, I would love to see who are you in the audience. So please drop 1 or 2 or 3 of these numbers in the chat. We already have seen some chat activity starting out here. So who are you? Are you the founder, the CEO, the leader, the professor, the change maker, scientist, rebel, or are you something else? Please share it with us here. Okay, we have a couple that are multiple. Love it. All right, keep showing who you are. This talk is all for you. So I was already introduced, but I want to start from where we are today, and then we're gonna go backwards. So today, I have almost 20 years of experience running companies, working with incredible founders and investor CEOs from all around the world. I'm physically in Europe at the moment, but we work mostly with US companies. And I spend a lot of time under normal circumstances in New York and in Boston. 2019, I was in Boston 7 times. So it was almost like my third home, if you will. So I'm very honored to be speaking here today and to have you joining us. So I've been traveling the world and speaking in front of 5,000 to 5,000 people at LVMH, Apple, Web Summit, at the time when there was 22,000 participants and not 50,000 as it is of 19. But I also work with a lot of founders, 101, and a significant amount of founders out of Boston in biotech, life science, and health tech. So again, this is really special to me to have you as an audience today. And today I split my time between professional speaking. I talk about the human side of future work normally, not so much about my untold story. Also working with founders, CEOs, investors 101, and we help companies design and scale thriving cultures. And the company I'm running today is Reimaginez, and we are all about empowering the next generation of brilliant business cultures championed by high achievers. So that's where I am today, but that's not how it started. So I want to go back in time and unpack what led me to the point where we are today. And I want to share with you what happens when you're living with the idea that entrepreneurship is limitless. So I was a quite active child. I pursued a lot of different activities, as you can see here. And the fascination with sport has been with me for the entire time. But the thing is that what I learned from team sport was really, how do you collaborate? How do you communicate? And how do you increase your self-awareness? From the individual sports I did, it was all about discipline, determination, and striving for excellence. So I was 10 years old and I loved basketball. I was playing in 2 different teams. In one of the teams, I was an average player. I was playing defense. And in the other team, I was the best player and I was playing guard. And I always love playing guard. It's the one that is leading the plays, if you will. But there were a moment when the team where I was playing guard was meeting a significantly better team years ago. As I mentioned, I was 10 years old, and right before the game was about to start, our coach had an emergency. So our coach was running away and was just leaving us, the team, without any guidance and scrambling to figuring out how to even approach a team that was so much better than us. After I was part of the starting line, and after 10 minutes of playing, I realized that we are not just losing, we are losing big. And if we are even going to have a chance to win here, or at least not embarrassing yourselves, we need to do something different. So I was on the court, and in a split decision, I had the realization I could stay on the court and allow my passion for basketball to keep playing, and we would definitely lose, and big time. Or I could step off the court and coach the team, and by that, giving up my spot of playing. The thing is that we never know when we are going to face a crossroad that will be a defining piece of our life. One of my first ones was this. So with a heavy heart, for about 2 seconds, I stepped off the court and was the coach in the game. In case you're curious, we tied, so we didn't lose. But of course, it wasn't about the game. It was about realizing that my natural talents were more in line with being there for others, coaching others, and supporting brilliant individuals than being the player myself. And this insight has been following me for the rest of my life. You might face a similar crossroad in a split moment where you need to make a decision. If you make a decision that doesn't align with your core being, you can always change path. But for me, the most significant decision there was not to stay on the court and enjoy the play, but stepping off the court and be there for my team. After that, I tried team sports for a couple of years, but I realized that every time I was playing in a team, I became the leader or the coach. So even if my team or the people I was working out with had an excellent workout, for me, it was kind of a lousy workout. So I started to pursue individual sports significantly more. And the 2 that really stayed with me was fitness and fighting. The culture in the gym, when you're pursuing fitness, I was doing natural bodybuilding at the time, is quite remarkable. You have people in the gym that are living and breathing and are really honing their skills and ability to challenge themselves to the limit and really grow as humans. And it takes so much discipline to pursue that sport. So I saw people interacted in the gym. Everyone was supportive. and no one was in the way of someone else's pursuit, even if it was quite competitive at the time. The other thing was fighting. So I realized when I was 15 that when it comes to fighting, especially kickboxing, it's not so much about how heavy you are or big you are, it's much more about technique. And this is the same thing in life. Sometimes there are companies or people that are bigger than us, but it doesn't mean that they always win. We can use our techniques, our brilliance, and our brains to outcompete anyone. So this is what I did during one Thursday night. I was up against a guy that was 100 kilos, and I was about almost 40 kilos lighter than him at the time. And I outcompeted him, not because he was trying to make me win, because my technique was better. So by having great technique, you can win even against raw strength. So I got my inspiration and realization from culture, really from sports. But there's one other thing. I became an active soccer supporter as a child, and I was traveling with the team, supporting the team. And I had two different lessons from this experience that I did for years. Being in the stands, singing, supporting our team, regardless if it was raining or if it was sunny, if it was 100 miles away or just around the corner, we were all united on the stands. People were standing side by side with each other. You had the CEO, you had the factory worker, you had the professor and the student, you had the executive and the founder. Everyone was standing side by side, united in the same passion and determination and the love for our team. All the superficial things didn't matter. It didn't matter that there were differences in opinion or background or political allegiance. All of that went through the window when we were standing there together, just singing and supporting our team. The other thing I learned from soccer was on the field. In order to win a game, you need to have one goal, one strategy. Of course, you need to adapt your strategy as you go along, but it's very clear. There isn't one player running in the wrong direction, or if it is, he or she wouldn't really be on the field, would they? But they're all united around one vision, one goal, and really working as a team together. So this background and this realization really impacted how I saw culture growing up and how I see culture, especially in companies today. So one other afternoon, I was 17 at the time, I was sitting in an English old office with one of those brown couches and big desks. You might have seen it in a movie, or maybe even some of your professors have this. The CEO of this this school, came in through the door. As I was sitting on the couch, and we were speaking about a project. At the end of the conversation, she asked me, "So, do you want us to employ you or hire you?" For me, it was never a matter of if I would start a company. It was ever a question of when. So I say, hire me. So at the age of 17, I started a management consultancy firm. I didn't have a brand. I didn't have a business plan, but I had a paying client and I was on my way. It took me years to realize that this was unusual or noteworthy and even worth sharing. And within the first 2 years of my business, I had experience both from working in the growth side, so business development, and the cost cutting side, which is basically helping companies that are bleeding. And I realized that that's not me. Cost cutting, it's not what I'm going to do. I'm going to work on growth and empowerment of people and companies. The thing is, though, that it's important for us to all stop and recognize what's special or different or unusual about us, and really embrace it and follow it. And know that entrepreneurship is limitless. I kept on that path. So I started at Stockholm School of Economics when I was 19, and within 2 years, I was a guest lecturer at 3 different universities: Stockholm School of Economics, Stockholm School of Entrepreneurship, and the Royal Institute of Technology. I was 21, and yes, I was a bachelor student and was teaching masters and MBAs. Just as starting the consultancy firm when I was so young, this wasn't weird to me. I was talking about entrepreneurship, and at the time, I had quite a few years of experience, 5, I think, at the time, and the limitlessness of entrepreneurship. And the thing here is, it would have been so easy to just look at the number 21 at the time and say that, oh, I'm too young, I don't have enough experience, etc., etc. Instead, I leaned into the opportunities. And my encouragement to you is, don't let others define you. Regardless if you are 21 or if you're 70, age is just a number, and you decide what you do with it. I love this quote by Steve Jobs, that you can't connect the dots looking forward. You can only connect the dots looking backwards. There were a lot of things I did that might be unusual. I was 20 when I started to work with an angel, so I got exposure to the venture side. I was 23 when I became the youngest member of a large business plan competition, and 30 when I received that award, SCAPA, that was previously mentioned, which is basically the equivalent of, well, it's noted as equivalent of the Nobel Prize for Entrepreneurship in Sweden, and then recognized by the Nordic 100. The thing is, though, that just as we shouldn't let others define us, we shouldn't let others define our path. So regardless where you are today and what you want to build, that's all valid, and it's all up to you what you do with it. I've always seen entrepreneurship as a lifestyle, and as you know, as we have founders and CEOs in the audience, it's a roller coaster, and we need to recognize that. Regardless if you're running a company, if you're doing advanced research, if you are pursuing something meaningful or hard, it is a roller coaster. And it's really important to acknowledge that so we can be prepared for that. Because if we're not, every time we have a dip, we might take it personal, but it's not. It's just part of the journey. And the more we embrace it and are able to go with the highs and the lows, the easier it is to thrive and not just survive in this lifestyle. So let me show you one way to thrive as a founder with Matt Williams. As you might have picked up already, I'm quite purpose-centric, and it is something that I encourage others to pursue as well. Basically, starting with your purpose, both for your life, but also for your company, and allowing that to guide everything else. And really pursuing your purpose with a sense of urgency can really make a difference. But there's more than that. I'm not a fan of work-life balance, and let me tell you why. The ideal work-life balance is that everything is equal and everything is the same for everyone. You're supposed to work a third of your time, have leisure for a third of your time, and sleep for a third of your time. That's well and good, but that's not how we thrive. The thing is that the more we allow ourselves, our purpose and our values to guide our daily actions, and also what type of companies or careers we are pursuing, the better. There's a step before lifestyle design, though. That's work-life integration. So if you're currently in a position where there's a lot of work-life balance pushed on you, work-life integration is basically allowing yourself to live more in line with your circadian rhythm, so your internal body clock, and working with the peaks and the values you have throughout the day. That can be one way of dipping your toe into work-life integration and later fully lifestyle design. But truly, knowing your true north, knowing your vision or your purpose, depending on if it's for you as a human or for your company, designing a life and a company in line with your values. That's how we can truly make a difference and honor our path and our role here on Earth. And it starts with identifying our values. It can be hard to identify our purpose right off the gate. So what I would encourage you to do when you're thinking about your values for yourself or for your company, this is one of those times, take off your notebook and make some, capture your thoughts and your brilliance. What really matter to you? As an example, one of our values in my company, but also in my life, is to make other people successful. And that really guides my everyday life and how we are running the company. Because the thing is, the greatest danger for most of us lies in not setting out to aim too high and falling short, but settling our aim too low and achieving the mark. I want to invite you to dream big and to act big. Nothing is impossible, and entrepreneurship is limitless. And this is one way of thinking about it. Let your purpose influence your goals, and your goals guide your plans. Your plans design your habits, and your habits empower your thoughts. The more we do this, the more we are allowing ourselves to thrive. There were a study years ago done on university students where they were about to do an exam, and they had 3 different groups. One group were only focusing on the goal, the end result, getting that A. And I'm sure some of you can relate to that. Another group were only focused on the process, studying every day, having a routine of setting up, making sure that they learned everything they needed. And the third group were a mix. And this study done many years ago, you might be able to guess who did the best. The thing is that in the average, the goal group had a 2 in average. The process group had an 8, and the combined group had a 10. The more we are allowing our goals and our plans and our habits to align, the easier it is to achieve whatever we are setting out to do, especially if it's hard. I also want you to recognize the idea of opportunity cost. I'm sure you have heard it before, that everything we do has an opportunity cost. So by really allowing yourself to go all in whatever activity we're doing at the moment and really playing to win and giving it our all, the opportunity cost is insignificant. But if we don't, the opportunity cost might be large. Because we have a choice. We have a choice of thriving or struggling. We have a choice of looking at the world from a positive or a negative lens. There's no right or wrong, but it just impacts our life and our company for that matter. I'm sure you're familiar with the confirmation bias, that what we are focusing on really are amplified in our mind and our surrounding. If we are waking up in the morning and with gratitude and excitement, even the smallest interaction, the smallest smile, or the smallest note in an email or on Slack can really make a difference. But if we're waking up and looking at the world that everything is bad, we're going to seek out that. Confirmation bias always kicks in, regardless if we want it or not. And that's why it's a choice. But with that said, it doesn't mean that that's easy. And why true courage is risk being uncomfortable over and over and over again, especially if we are running a company and are pursuing entrepreneurship. So I'm going to ask you a question you might be familiar with. And now is the time to go to the chat again. I'm going to ask you to put a number here, and do feel free to put the number as soon as you feel this resonates with you. Add the number. All right. So is the glass half empty? I'm going to wait. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Is the glass half full? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. Excellent. There's a lot of twos. Some ones. All right. So here's the kicker. Is the glass full? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All right. There are quite a few 3 there. The thing is that regardless what you are answering, you're right. You're right in your own mind. And this is an indication of how you might see life. Again, there's no right or wrong. That's really important to point out. Because it is half empty, it is half full, but it is also full. It's full with water, or in this case, champagne and air. It all comes down to how we look at the world. And this is exactly what I mean with confirmation bias. And we can always change our mind if it serves us. So passion is contagious. It's not rational, it's passion. And again, I would love for you to take out your notebook and capture 3 things that you are passionate about. Nothing is too small, too big, too silly, too huge. If you want to change the world, awesome. The thing is that in our wonderful community, the global startup community, some of our core values is making a difference, challenge the status quo, and pay it forward. There's so much passion in our community worldwide, regardless how you are in our community. So I want you to encourage to capture your passion and know that it is contagious. The other thing is to make a habit, especially in our world, to do things way before you're ready. So as you might have picked up in context, I've done that once or twice in my life. I've been asking strangers to be my mentors. I attended my first board meeting when I was 18, and I took the notes. And I had no idea how to take notes in a board meeting when I was 18. Someone was flying me to a different city to do that. It was a client at the time. And asked me to take notes, and I didn't know what to listen for. I didn't know what to expect, but I did it anyway. And I remember the first time I presented in front of thousands of people. Sometimes the only thing we need is 20 seconds of insane courage to change the direction of our life and of our companies. Imagine being back at a tech conference or startup conference somewhere around the world, and someone you deeply admire is just passing you by. Will you have that courage to go up to them? Don't grab their arm, by the way. I've seen founders doing that sometimes when they're very eager to pitch their startups to investors or media. But would you have the courage to go up to them and introduce yourself and share your passion or your vision for whatever you are pursuing? The asking strangers to be my mentors, that's, I don't do that as often anymore. I have another strategy for that today. But one of the most noteworthy people is one of our greatest entrepreneurs of all time, Richard Branson. And yes, I went up to Richard Branson with that question, and I got his email, his private email. You never know when you're doing crazy things, what's gonna happen. but it's a matter of making a habit of really challenging yourself and challenging your fears head on. And also to play to win. Let's go back to the soccer field for a moment. There's a very big difference when a team is playing or trying to get to 0-0 for a game versus a 9-0. There's different strategies. It's higher risk, but there's higher rewards too. And it's important to recognize that our time is so limited. So the more we do with our time here, the more adventure and excitement we can have, and the more impact, more importantly, we can have on others. It's also important, though, to recognize that in order to win the war, we can't win every fight. We need to know if it is a fight that is worth taking on. Is this a strategic battle, or is this just a nice to have? This is more and more important as you're starting your company, growing your company, and for the founders in the audience that have been at it for a while, you know that there is going to be extreme lows, and some of these lows might tease you in to go into a fight that is not a strategic one. It's really important to have the presence, the calm, and the understanding for what is what. Because, of course, there will be hardships. We all have them. But the question is, how are we going to deal with them? Are we going to come out of it as a victim or a survivor and fighter? Again, we have the ability to choose. The thing is as well that hardships helps us build resiliency, and that is one of the most significant pieces of thriving in the entrepreneurial roller coaster. I also want to talk about locus of control here. If you feel that you're in control of your own life, or if you feel that you're a victim under your circumstances, that's external locus of control, means that we are guided by whatever is happening to us from an outside. And internal means that we are in the driver's seat, or we are coaching the team or running our startup. There's a choice to make. And even if there's hardships, we choose how we deal with them. But yes, this is me on this one. This is the only time I've ever been on a dirt bike. And yes, you can see there's snow and ice. That was not a good idea. This is a cool picture. And yes, I got injured. We all do stupid things. And we need to recognize the difference between risk-reward ratio. I do believe in taking a lot of risks, but it's important that they are calculated and not just for a fun moment, as this ended up to be for about 10 seconds. So when I was 9, I was in a furniture store and I saw 2 lamps, 2 white lamps. And my parents were very relaxed with me for standing there for 45 minutes debating if I want lamp 1 or lamp 2. Yes, I was debating with myself at 9 years old in a store for 45 minutes if I should have one lamp over another. I made the decision, left the store, and as I was sitting in the car on my way home, I still felt that maybe I should have taken the other lamp. At that point, I realized that if I allow regret dictate my life, this is going to happen a lot of times. So I made a decision in the car. And then when I put my lamp in the window, that this was going to be the last time I regretted anything. And it was. Of course, there's been a lot of hardships and a lot of challenges throughout the years. That's the case for all of us. Some of them have been extreme, but I've never regretted it because I made the best decision under the circumstances and with all the knowledge I had at the time. It's important for us to recognize that and allow us to do that. However, since I hadn't made a decision at the time, when I think back at that lamp, even if it's long gone and I haven't had it for probably 20 years, I still feel as, did I make the right decision? We don't have to live with regret, especially if we're allowing ourselves to live in line with our purpose and our values and let that guide us regardless what we are facing. If we're making the best decision we possibly can under the circumstances and the information we have, even if it's the wrong decision, it was the right decision under the circumstances. So how can we possibly regret it? And we can't change the past. So holding ourselves back for something that happened in the past doesn't help us, and it doesn't help the impact we're striving for to have in the world. So this is another time where I want you to capture, what do you need to thrive in your life? What lights you up? What do you need consistency? What do you need every day or every week? For me, there's a couple of things, and two I'm going to mention. I'm really driven by a sense of achievement, and I'm trying to set up every day to when my head hits the pillow, that I have a sense of achievement. But that means that there needs to be a direct alignment between my purpose, my values, my goals, my actions every day. So you need to design your life accordingly. The other thing is flow time, developing an ability or a routine to easily get into flow, regardless where you're at. For me, it's just my headphones. I have 2 different playlists. Always start on the same song, some water and coffee next to me, and my computer plugged in, and we are good to go. And of course, there's no distractions in flow time. But this is 2 things I need to thrive. What do you need to thrive every day? It's also important to recognize that when we're living on the entrepreneurial roller coaster, we need to have a lot of energy, and there's going to be ups and downs, and it's really draining. So how are we recovering ourselves in the ups and the downs? Having habits that are fueling our mind, body, and soul can really help. Prioritizing sleep, I'm sure you heard this a million times. And yes, I do. I work a lot, but I do prioritize my sleep. Working out, making sure that we are consuming food that really nurture us, because food can be seen as fuel. But also having meditation practices and journaling and gratitude and all of that. Those are just some that can really empower us in our pursuit of making a difference. But it's important that you pick something that really resonates with you and start small. You don't need to start with meditating for 30 minutes for every day for the rest of your life. Baby steps. Start with 2 minutes and then see what it leads to. One of the biggest benefits for me with meditation, just to give you one more note there, is that there's so much science behind it, why it's so powerful for us. But the thing that really speaks to me is that it allows our brain to work faster. So simply said, we can become smarter if we are meditating regularly. And that really speaks to me. But it's also important to seek out activities and people that really lights us up. I've done art throughout my life. This is some of my paintings, and dancing. As you notice on the sports sheet, there were a lot of dancing. I still do that, but today I do it as conferences at night. Well, not during COVID, of course, but under normal circumstances. And then people, surrounding ourselves with people that really energizes us. And if you have people around you that drains you of energy, that's a huge cost. And sometimes we need to leave things or people behind to invite other people with the same values, same pursuits, same ambition into our lives to really thrive and be the role model for others. And know that there's an opportunity cost for everything. So if you're allowing one person to get you down, that time that you are spending on that can never be back. You will never get that back. And it's just going to be a waste. So instead of doing that, allowing yourself to seek out people that truly believes in you and have the same values makes a huge difference. This is another quote I love. People will forget what you said. People will forget what you did, but they will never forget how you made them feel. Maya Angelou. So when it comes to people, I think in decades. Yes, decades. It's important to really invest in relationships, regardless if it is with your professor, with your teacher, with your best friend, with your family, with a mentor, with your team members, with anyone really, and really build deep relationships. I believe in scheduling giving time every week. And so every week, even today, I've been doing this for more than 20 years. Every week, I have time in my calendar that is dedicating to giving and paying it forward, because one of my values is to live as a positive giver. This is how it all fits together. When we are allowing our values to dictate how we spend our time, that's when we are truly practicing lifestyle design. But it's also important to recognize that there's different type of people. So I want you to imagine being back on a plane. I know most of us haven't been back on a plane forever. Pre-COVID, I hadn't unpacked my suitcase for 6 years, so I was traveling all the time. But I'm sure that you can imagine being back on a plane. And let's say that the oxygen masks comes down. Now, the taker would be the person that would take his or her own mask and try to grab every mask around them. The matcher would help you if you are helping him or her. But there's two types of givers. One type of giver, the selfless giver, would rally the entire plane, make sure that everyone is safe and calm, but forget about themselves and never put on their own mask. The otherish giver, or what I like to call it, a positive giver, would ensure that their own oxygen mask would be on, and then would help the crew to calm everyone down through that challenge. It's really important as we are living as givers that we are not just giving to everybody, especially not the takers, but most people are not takers. Most people are genuinely good humans. And the more we are seeking out people with the same values and the same ambition as us, the more we will find them and meet them and interact with them. So seek out fellow positive givers. It's also important to have your own tribe with like-minded change makers. This can be mentors, it can be professors, it can be coaches, it can be team members, co-founders, all of that. This napkin was the foundation of Southwest Airlines, founded by Herb Kelleher, that passed away a couple of years ago. When he founded this airline, his ambition was to democratize the airwaves in the 1970s. Our tribe can also exist of people that we never met. I never had the chance to meet him, but I loved his mission and his dedication to culture and really democratizing the airwaves. So our tribe can be people we know, people we hope to know. And it's important, though, that it's really people who share our values and our ambition. Another thing is the dedication to learning. So committing to lifelong learning. I can't even tell you when this started, but I was small. At the age of 6, I had memorized 200 books. And that was difficult for my family, because at that time they could never skip a page, because I knew what was coming. So I knew if they were skipping it. And that thirst for learning had been really been part of my life from the beginning. And I encourage you to commit to it too, to learn new things, even after you leave school, to dedicate time. I do it every day, but to dedicate time at least every week, learning about different things in science, in psychology, in entrepreneurship, In medicine, there's so much to learn. And the more we learn, the more we see things from new lights and new nuances. So allow yourself to commit to learning, but also take time to turn your own wisdom into practice. There's a lot of ways to do that. Having thinking time, going for long walks, where you're reflecting and allowing different perspectives to come to you. Having me time, where you're really learning new things through courses or with people one-on-one or books or articles. There's so many possibilities. But the one thing I want to highlight here is a year in review. Again, I've been doing this for years, but basically what a year in review is that you're capturing your reflections and brilliance, insight, lessons from the year, and you're keeping it in one page, or sorry, not one page, one document, and you can keep coming back to it. And it really allows us to look at the year and our experiences from a new light. Maybe that hardship was our greatest lesson. Maybe that one moment with a stranger really changed the direction of our lives. Allowing ourselves to turn wisdom into practice starts with capturing it, and then, of course, putting it into practice with daily habits and thoughts. Since this is an entrepreneurial audience, I do want to throw in one more thing here, and this is my top 5 advice to founders. So you will be surprised to know that the first one is connected to culture. Probably not. So there's an old way of building companies, which is profit only. It's basically putting profits first, then customers, and then people. This have led to, among other things, that 85% globally are not engaged in the workplace. If you're a founder, CEO, or someone that is creating a company, aspiring entrepreneur, don't fall for this. The profit-only perspective works for now, and it might work for another minute or two, but it's not creating a culture or a company where people are thriving. And there's a lot of difficulties if we're only focusing on profit. There's also other changes in the world, including what talent is looking for, what the consumers are looking for when it comes to buying and interacting with companies that is much more people and purpose centric. So you will have a competitive advantage if you're embracing the quote unquote new one, which is more of a people and purpose centric culture. What this means is that you're putting people first, then customers, then profit. If you're having a culture and a company where people are showing up as their best selves and are loving what they're doing and really contributing to the company, the customers will notice. They will notice and they will be loyal and might even become huge fans and supporters to you. And that will lead to sustainable and profitable growth over time. So you will be future-proof. So committing to building people and purpose-centric cultures and will attract people who believe in what you believe in, will be attracted to your company. Because culture is a way to drive behavior, and culture can be designed. The second thing is high achievers attract high achievers. So if we have this thriving culture, the best people, we call them high achievers, will be attracted to your company, and we love working together. And that is really how we, even if we are the smaller one, if we go back to the fighting story there, me being small and light at the time versus this big one, we can still win if we want to, if we have a culture of high achievers believing what we are believing. The other thing is co-creating with the market, applying design thinking. Don't sit in a corner and develop something brilliant. Invite the rest of the world to see it and really give you feedback on it. Live as a customer. So put yourself in the shoes of the customer, but also invite the market to have input into your customers, not just your customers, but how you are developing and delivering your product or service and how you're interacting with the market. It took me a long time to embrace this, but this is how a lot of the founders, CEOs, and investors I work with are addressing me. And this is me embracing that. So sometimes we the market is telling us one thing, and it might take a minute or two to really embrace it and appreciate it. The fourth thing is deliver exceptional value in everything we do. And then, of course, we need to optimize our cash flow because, well, that is tend to be one of the hardest things for us to manage. And as long as we have stable cash flow or control over our finances, it's much easier to do magic. I want you to imagine, as part of my closing here, yourself 10 years in the future. And if you are embracing the limitlessness of entrepreneurship and that you can create anything you want, you really can, and really dream big, what would that look like? Again, I will invite you to think about it more after this session. Because as Nelson Mandela once said, it always seems impossible until it's done. Entrepreneurship is truly limitless, and I want you to embrace it. This is what I've been showing you throughout the way. This is my way of capturing how we can thrive with the entrepreneurial mindset: math brilliance, motivation, attitude, philosophy, performance, and power, and direction in brilliance, of course. So math brilliance. So as my final question to you is, how are you going to embrace the limitlessness of entrepreneurship in your life, regardless in what pursuit you're doing it? It's been my honor to be here. Thank you so much for listening, and I'm more than happy to answer questions. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, Therése. Thank you for such an inspiring but also truth-telling presentation. And I'm sure the audience learned a lot from the presentation. I have to say, personally, I kind of resonate with a lot of points you made. And I absolutely agree with you. The entrepreneurship is a limited journey and can full of ups and downs, but with the courage, with a risk-taking approach, and always try to win, and eventually people will reach their destination. And thank you. And we already have a question coming, and I also encourage the audience to write down your questions in the Q&A, and we can and move forward. So the question now, one of the audience asked, how can we keep our environment positive always?
Yeah, so I assume the environment that you're in, right? So we can't always, but what we can control is how we relate to it. So even in hardships, we can always look out for what's good in it. This takes a lot of practice. This is easy to say, it's hard to do, but it is possible. It is really possible. Sometimes when we're facing hardships or challenges, we don't always know what lessons we will learn from that and how we will grow from that. And also know that if you are in an environment that requires a lot of willpower to stay positive, that will build your resiliency. And this will help you in your life regardless what you choose to do. Of course, if it is an ongoing situation and things are just getting worse and worse, we need to get out of that. And this is going back to play to win and winning your strategic battles to win the war. This is one of those times. But it really comes down to looking at, are we seeing the good or are the bad? There's always good, there's always bad. I remember one time I was in Zurich in Switzerland, and an acquaintance of mine were looking up in the sky and was saying that, oh, it's such a horrible weather today. And I was kind of baffled. I'm like, I'm sorry, what do you mean? He was like, look at that cloud. They are far in the distance. It's not cloud free. And I'm like, it's sunny, it's gorgeous, it's February, and you can see the mountains from the middle of the city. That's incredible, right? So the thing is that you can always find the bad or the good regardless. But it's really our decision on how we relate to it. Thanks for the question.
Oh, thank you for the answer. And actually, I want to ask a follow-up question on that one. I think that's a great question. But as you mentioned, we have work like globally right now, and some of the companies, they probably have very diverse team. And when you coach those startup with the employees from all over the world with a very diverse background, and how can we still keep a very positive environment, what we need to pay attention to, what kind of challenges, and you see the startups face in this kind of a situation.
Yes, so I get this question a lot regarding remote or fully remote, especially during this trying times for the world. My perspective is that regardless if we're all in the office or if we're all in remote, we need to focus on culture. And the more we are leading and creating a place, a company where people are sharing the same values and have a crystal clear vision of what we're trying to achieve, the easier it is to align people. But that goes regardless if it is remote or in one office. The thing is as well that, as you might know, interdisciplinary teams, so people with different backgrounds and different specialties, they can be hard to run, but they tend to be the most successful ones when we get it right. And we can get it right by aligning around a clear vision, clear goals, making sure that we create that sense of belonging, even if we are far apart, and then living our values. And part of that, if you're the founder or CEO, is to model the values. So think about your values and how are you modeling that in your communication, in your leadership, and in your way of showing up every day. This is one of the things we do, so I'm more than happy to talk more about it offline, but those are just some of the perspectives on that question. Thank you for it.
Thank you, Teresa. We have another question coming from the audience. How to remain positive when poor achievers are getting the higher positions and awards? Is there any way to handle that situation? It's a kind of tough question. Yeah.
Well, that will happen. That's what happens sometimes with takers. But the thing is that we need to navigate around that. Just because there are people that are poor achievers or manipulative or bad doesn't mean that we should do that. It might just be that the environment you're in is not appreciative of your contribution or who you are. And sometimes, again, we need to leave one place for another. And as we're making big changes in life, it's important to recognize that there will be a void. And that void, it's very easy when we're feeling the void to just jump into anything. It's better to sit with it, to look at it, and allow ourselves to feel the void and really step into the new opportunity with our eyes wide open and with all our heart. Yes, that happens, but there's a lot of incredible human beings that are also recognized, and it takes time. One of the things, so I mentioned that I work with founders and CEOs 101, sometimes investors too. And I personally specialize in high achieving empathic givers. So high performing individuals driven by making a difference and highly empathetic. And I see them as the best and most incredible human beings there is, right? And if we're amplifying and empowering them, you have the ripple effect in their companies, but also in the society at large. The challenge for this group is that they tend to be alone, and they are incredibly resilient, and they're looking out for everyone else. So they don't always feel supported. But what I found working with them, just knowing that there's others out there that is like you, help, because you are not alone. And just because something happened once to you doesn't mean that it will happen again. Thank you for the question.
The next question actually is a very classic. I think a lot of investors or entrepreneurs probably face this question or wonder about this question. What is more important, the entrepreneur idea or the entrepreneur team?
Yes, it is a very common question. Okay, so let's look at the facts, let us. So we can have an amazing idea with a mediocre team, Or we can have a mediocre idea with a brilliant team. Who is most likely to thrive? Well, even if you have a brilliant idea with a mediocre team, there will be a lot of issues. The culture is probably going to be mediocre or even toxic. And even if the idea is brilliant, it doesn't mean that the idea will be realized. If you have the other, though, if you invest in people and invest in the culture that they have created, they will figure out that it is a mediocre idea, and they will be able to pivot and or even make something remarkable out of a mediocre idea. I see it all the time. So my personal approach is to look at the humans first, and then you look at the rest. But of course, there's other factors you need to consider. You need to consider timing and market size and why you're investing. And there's a lot of other other pieces that adds more complexity to it. But if the question is, are you investing in the idea or the humans? The humans. Thanks for the question.
Great answer. And the next question is how do you work on inspiring people or aligning people under a single vision?
That's a great question. And first you need to have one. So you would be surprised that even if I'm working with a lot of brilliant founders and investors, not all of them have it. And more importantly, not all of them are communicating it, because it takes courage. But it's also a matter of recognizing that it's incredibly powerful. Going back to the statement, people who believe in what you believe in will be attracted to you. And that is both when it comes to the vision and the culture and the values you stand for, or the problem you're trying to solve. So it starts with that, and then in inviting people to be part of it. Not everyone wants to be part of it, and that's okay, because if everyone wants to be part of it, you probably haven't done it right. This personally took me a minute or two to accept. I did it years ago, but I remember when I was like, but it feels uncomfortable to sort of talk about my personal purpose, because it's so personal, right? It's something that is in your heart, and you're putting that on the table, and then you're allowing others to like, yeah, I don't like that. Well, with resiliency, and again, if we're driven by making a difference and recognizing that our time is so limited, the people that don't align with it, it's okay, because there will be others that are lit up by it and can't wait to be part of your pursuit. Of course, there's other leadership directives that we can talk about, and how do you actually do it after that? But that's always the starting point. Thank you for your question.
Great. So next question is, again, I think many entrepreneurs also face, and Therése, you definitely can give them very good tips and suggestions. The question is, how to believe in our own business ideas, and even when there are very little support or acceptance from the people around us.
Yes. So I remember I was having lunch with aspiring founder 12 years ago or so. And he came from the corporate world, and he was about to go on his own path and create his own company. And over lunch, we talked about a lot of things. But one of the last things I said to him was, as you are making this change, there might be people around you that don't appreciate it. And you need to be very careful of who you listen to and understand where they're coming from. Some of them are going to be fearful. Some of them are just not going to think it's a good idea. And some are going to be malicious. The thing is that when we are pursuing something new, or pursuing our idea, or trying something out, we will be a mirror for people around us. And that's not going to be welcome for everyone that we have in our lives, right? So this is what I said before, with not allowing people that are draining us or holding us back to dictate our path or how we live. But with that said, it's also trial and error. Like, again, the entrepreneurial roller coaster is trying something, putting it out there, asking people, getting perspectives, talking to the market, and then honing in and making it better and better and better over time. It's a process and it's a journey, and that's part of the thrill. But if If you don't believe in it, ask yourself why. And it might be that there's a doubt about something else. And if it's not, then we can really lean into the idea by going out to the market, co-create with the market, and slowly, step by step, develop the idea to a brilliant business. Thanks for the question.
And okay, the next question, actually, I'm kind of curious to know the answer as well.
Okay.
And I really like the Therése, you ask the audience, the glass, should a glass of champagne, and that is a fantastic scenario and to test, people's different perspective. So the question from the audience is, they want to know if someone asks you whether the glass is a half full or half empty or full, and what would you say, and why?
Yes, so I would say that it is what it is for you. But if you're asking me how I define it, I define the glass as full because it is full. It's full of possibilities, and this is sort of what life is, right? Even in times when we don't know where to go next, we always have that opportunity of trying things out and pursuing it. And I do believe that the glass is full. It's full of water, or in this case, champagne and air. And the more we embrace that, I believe, the more we can see opportunities everywhere. And this is something I found, especially serial entrepreneurs, being brilliant at. They see opportunities everywhere, and the challenge is to choose which one. They don't have a hard time coming up with new innovations or new solving new problems. That's one thing. And the second question on that was?
Oh yeah, I think you already answered. Yeah, the second just asked you to explain why you choose the either full or half full. I think you already explained very well. Yeah,
All right,
thank you.
excellent. Thank you.
Good. Yeah. The next question, and people want to know how do you keep your motivations up, like in times of a hardship and low motivation? And I think a lot of people probably need more tips and the suggestions. Yeah.
Yes. So again, it starts with if you're pursuing your purpose, there's sort of a sense of urgency of doing it every day, right? And really realize your vision and bringing it to the world. But to address your question, like when you have a dip of motivation or energy, I would say the reason why we develop daily habits of journaling or meditating or whatever it might be, it's not for the good times, it's for the hard times. Because in the hard times is when we need it the most, and that can just help us through something we are dealing with. So I'm not meditating every day, to feel better this very moment. I don't mind it, and I do, but it's in those dips when we're facing these hardships, the more solid routines we have that we can fall back on, and the more solid tribe of like-minded change makers, individuals we can rely on, the easier it is to get out of it. But again, living on the entrepreneurial roller coaster, the highs and the lows is part of the journey, and it's okay. If you have low energy one day or feel that you need time just to recharge, don't force yourself. Do that. What I would encourage you though is to seek out places and people that inspire you. So for me, I love being by the water. So if I feel that I need to energize myself, or I'm thinking about a hard problem and I don't know how to solve it, I tend to go to the water or walking by the water as much as I possibly can. But it's really important to allow ourselves to go with the ups and downs and not beat ourselves up if we have a bad day or if we have low motivation. Know that everything is temporary. Everything is temporary. So it will be better. Just stick with it. And sometimes we don't see the change until years later. We plant the seed today to see the forest in 30 years. But along the way, there will be a lot of beautiful flowers that is coming up during the meantime. Thanks for the question.
Thank you. So such a beautiful answer. Yeah. Yeah, everything is temporary. That's absolutely right. And the next question is about how do you train yourself to have a mentality of never regretting your decisions? That's really powerful. I mean, ability to never regret. Yeah. But I really like it. I wish I could have that.
Well, you can. That's the thing, right? So it takes practice again. It's a lot of these things I'm talking about. That's not stuff you develop over like an afternoon. And we need to be patient with ourselves, right?
Mhm.
But the thing is that if we are taking time to really invest and get to know ourselves, to increase our self-awareness and deepen our connection to our self-worth, it's much easier to listen to our intuition or listen to our mind in times when we need to make hard decisions. And again, it doesn't mean that there won't be disappointment or frustration or sadness or anger. That's okay. But the reason why I don't believe in regret is that it's an excellent way of beating ourselves up over and over and over again. And that's not helping you. It's not helping your environment. It's not helping your company, definitely not helping the world. So just like thriving is a choice, so is this a choice. And it might start with baby steps. Again, there might be things from the past, like my silly example of the lamp. Again, I feel regret over a lamp. Like that's silly. But okay, that's fine. But there's other things, much harder things, where I don't feel it. So, but really embrace that if you are making the best possible decision in this moment, based on the information you have, and it happens to be the wrong direction, you couldn't have made another decision. It wouldn't have been possible and we can't travel in time. So it's okay. Forgive yourself, learn from it, and then just let it go. Don't let it define you, because there's so much brilliance in you that's nothing to do with that.
Okay, great. Yeah, maybe we can also find the water and work around it, and then all the regrets were gone, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Great. And Teresa, you mentioned earlier, like kind of emphasize the importance of the team, right? And now the audience asked another question: how can I attract the brilliant people to my startup, and how can I build up a successful team? And what kind of people should I be looking to hire? You know, that's a question. That kind of a long question as 3 parts, but typically it's all around how to build up a successful team for a startup.
Yes, so that can be answered over a 2-hour conversation. But I would say that if you identify your strengths and your talents, and you're actively seeking out, you're putting yourself out there and your business out there to the world, and you're asking people like, okay, so this is who I am. I'm looking for this type of person with this type of background. And then you're looking for the same values. That's really how it starts. Some people say that they don't like to work with friends. I've never subscribed to that. Some of our most brilliant clients are also very close friends of mine, and team members is the same. I don't like to separate. For me, part of lifestyle design is that everything is integrated. There's no separation. But it really is important to find your way of doing it. So what I'm saying is that your team might be just around the corner or might be around you already. You just need to look at the people in a different light. And if that's not the case, start to reach out to one person and then allow yourself to be open to it, and know that some of these relationships takes decades to build. That's okay. But you can still do a lot in the meanwhile, and you don't need to wait for your perfect co-founder. This is not a question that come up, but I get it all the time when I speak to an entrepreneurial audience. Do I need to wait for my co-founder to show up out of nowhere before I pursue my dream? Well, no. That's also important to recognize, that just start and then create a team in any regard. It can be a team of advisors, it can be a board, it can be your friends across the street, it can be anyone. Just start, just make sure that they share the same values and ambition as you. Thanks for the question.
Thank you, Teresa. Actually, one a member participant put a comment in the chat session. It says everything is temporary actually is from India philosophy. Yeah, that's a great comment, and it's to just show now we are a global, and we so learn from each other, and I'm pretty sure this is probably not just from India; it's made from some other cultures as well. That's really add to the discussion. And I also myself has one more question. I know you are doing this consulting business, you're coaching primarily the startups, right? The entrepreneur teams, but I believe you also coaching executives, right, or teams in well-established companies as well. So do you have any comparison, when you deal with startups versus well-established companies? What do you see the differences here? So can you share with something like that?
Yes, the answer is it's massive.
Oh, okay.
So in short, I would say that most of the work we are doing with corporates, it starts with a keynote, and it starts with talking about what's possible with culture and creating unified language around culture. The startups and the scale-ups, they already know that. So they are very hungry for the how.
Mm-hmm.
So this is something we have. So we have the frameworks, processes, and models to design and scale a thriving culture and really help them with the how. But typically, if we generalize, the big corporates, they are interested and they want to understand it and they want to create a language around it. And the startups, they just want to jump in and get it done. And so the majority of the companies we're working with is definitely startups and scale-ups, at least in the hands-on fashion.
Great. Any other questions from the audience? And today I just feel so honored to listen to Therése's presentation. Once again, this is such a inspiring presentation, especially the open presentation with your personal story. And I remember you mentioned this is untold story, and this is the first time you share with the audience. And this is really a very I feel really honored on behalf of the center. Thank you so much. And so many great points. And I just, I think this is where presented and the audience can learn, including myself, learn so much. I think there's another question about the next presentation. And we haven't finalized the next presentation's time, but once it is finalized, we will send out emails and notify everyone here. And also, I will take the opportunity to thank everyone coming to today's presentation. And thanks for everyone's participation. And I wish everyone can enjoy the weather, whatever you are in the world. And in New England area, I know many audience probably noticed that we have just a heavy snow, and finally it stopped. And maybe in your area is a sunshine, but just get out and enjoy the weekend. And thank you so much. Yeah.
You're very welcome. And it's been an honor and a pleasure to be here with you. And the final note, entrepreneurship is limitless. So how are you embracing that? Thanks so much.
Great. Therése, actually, we took the screenshot and we are going to include the event in the newsletter we're going to send to the Manning community. Do you mind? We share the picture, the title, but we will send the picture to you so you can take a look at it before we send it out.
Sounds great.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Yeah.
All right. Thank you all. Have a wonderful day.